My name is Heather Schichtel. I'm the Executive Director for Miracles for Mito. I also sit on the Colorado State Board for Mountain States Genetics. Miracles for Mito is a nonprofit based in Colorado that focuses on mitochondrial disease awareness and research. We focus on Montana all the way down to New Mexico and trying to get families the help that they need, and also engaging our medical professionals to focus on mitochondrial disease when that disease is suspected.
How do you advocate outside of the medical community or those that know about mitochondrial disease? And tell us a little bit too what your message is for those that might be watching that don't know what a mitochondria is.
That is a great question, and I'm going to start there. So what is mitochondria? If you remember back to your biology class, when they talk about the mighty mitochondria, they're known as the powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondria live in your organ cells and in your muscle cells. And not only are they responsible for generating energy in what's called ATP, but they're also responsible for transmitting energy from one cell to another. So for instance, in your brain, your mitochondria will generate that energy, then they transfer it to the next cell in the form of what's called the respiratory chain. Within that respiratory chain, there are 250 different gene sequences that have to happen to exchange that energy. So if there's a disease-causing mutation within any of those genes, that's where mitochondrial dysfunction can happen. And because it does, mitochondria, it's an energy disease, and the organs that take the most energy are the ones that are pretty important, like your brain and your heart and your stomach, mass muscle systems, nervous systems. So it really is a multi-system complex disease. And we've started, so it's hard to explain that, right? And when we talk about how do we create advocacy and how do we get the word out within our community, that's not a great elevator pitch to talk about everything that your mitochondria does. So we've tried to make it easy, and we've started with this slogan that says, I love my mitochondria. So with the I love my mitochondria, I'm going to show you a little t-shirt here with our I love my mitochondria. It's not so frightening, and I think it engages a sense of conversation where people will ask, well, what are my mitochondria? Why should I love them? And then you can kind of go into why we're doing this and why our advocacy is so important.
Heather, can you explain, how do you advocate within your disease-specific community?
Yeah, so mitochondrial disease, it's considered a rare disease. Every 30 minutes, a child is born with a mitochondrial mutation that will manifest by age 10. But it's not very well known within our medical community. And one reason why Miracles for Mito got started is because there really wasn't anything in Colorado that focused on mitochondrial support and awareness. So when we got started, we had a great relationship with one of our doctors here in Colorado. He kind of helped reach out to populations, to families that might have a suspected mitochondrial disease. And from there, we've kind of grown. We offer here in Colorado, we do a support group, an in-person support group, twice a year, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you have a medically fragile child, getting out into the community is a lot. We just did one for the holidays. This is a great chance for families who feel somewhat isolated within their disease to meet other families and connect, and also talk to other medical professionals. Outside of that, the internet, this digital age is great for connecting families with rare diseases. And we have a Facebook page. We also have a weekly support group meeting that spans nationally. So it's not just physically, I think we focus on the Rocky Mountain region. Digitally, we focus on how we can help our families nationally. We've also talked to, within our medical community, how to reach out to other physicians, other pediatricians, genetics, neurologists about what to do when there is a suspected mitochondrial disease, because it can present in so many different ways.
What advice would you have for others in other rare disease communities to find other families whom they might be able to support?
There are great community outreach programs. Where we've found that we've been really successful is collaborating with our doctors and our clinicians, our specialists who see patients on a regular basis. We have a monthly, so their clinic day is set on a particular day within the month. We will actually go out to our hospital and do a luncheon with our families. And our physicians know that we'll be there at a certain time, that we'll have lunch, and it helps engage those families that they're seeing to talk about what we're doing, and it creates a really great partnership.
How do you reach that broader community to have them have their interest in your rare disease?
You know, a lot of it is, we talk a lot about it. Social networks are great. Just in wearing that I love my mitochondria shirt, it's interesting how many people have stopped me and said, oh, I remember that from, biology class. Or scientists will actually stop me and say, are you a scientist? And I'm like, oh no, I wish I were, but not. I think we try to just keep talking about it and keeping our voice open. We have a great fundraiser that we do every year. We have a silent auction. We have a big bike ride where we just keep talking about the importance of our work and what we're doing. I work with Maria Hopfgarden. She's our president. We both have blogs where we talk consistently about the importance of this and just getting the word out within what we're doing through our blogs, through social media, through print, through direct mail, just any channel that we can engage our audience in.
Heather, could you tell us how you got involved with Miracles for Mito and knew about mitochondrial disease yourself?
Absolutely. I didn't know about mitochondrial disease until about 14 years ago when we had our daughter, Samantha, and there were things that presented as a baby that just didn't seem right. There were days when she was fine, and then there were other days where she just looked so sick and was so lethargic as an infant. And that's, diseases of energy can be like that, where some days you have a lot of energy and some days you don't have as much, which can make these diseases harder to diagnose, especially as an infant. Babies have kind of funky movements to begin with. And so it took us a while to get a diagnosis for Samantha. She actually ended up getting really sick and starting to have seizures. And that's when we explored, could this be genetic? What could this be? And it ended up being mitochondrial. As you know, with a lot of genetic diseases, it's all about your family tree. And so I actually have a brother. You can have an adult onset mitochondrial disease. And my brother manifested that deviation kind of showed itself when he was in his 30s. So that's made me really advocate for this disease. There's a personal connection. And so for our patient community, both Maria and myself know what it's like to navigate trying to get a diagnosis, what it's like trying to navigate a complex disease where multi-systems are impacted. I think that also makes our story relevant. We don't want to focus on our kiddos in our nonprofit, but I think the fact that we've walked this path, we're able to relate to our families and our patients.
Heather, can you explain some of the outreach programs that you do through Miracles for Mito that can help patients?
Absolutely. So we really tried, when we organized our nonprofit, we tried to identify where there really was a need for. And a couple of things that came up were people, they wanted a support group. They wanted to know who their people were, who their tribe was. They wanted to feel like they were part of a community. Another important aspect is that they wanted to feel cared for. Like if there was an emergency, that there was a group that they could reach out to. So we've started a family grant program where if there's something that isn't covered by insurance, isn't covered by Medicaid, parents or families can apply for a grant, and we're able to help those families out. So a couple of weeks ago, we sponsored a date night for the parents, just to get out and just to be, just to go and have a date and be a couple. It's not just about caring for the loved one that's impacted, but also caring for the family and making sure that those families are the best that they can be under a really stressful situation. We also, so there is a supplement that's not covered by insurance called CoQ10 that we've found really has some efficacy in a therapeutic environment for helping those that are impacted by mitochondrial disease. It's an expensive supplement, and so we're able to, if families are treated by our specialists, we're able to send out that supplement free of charge to whoever needs it. And I think it's those little things that really make a difference in the fact that our community feels supported and they feel like they kind of have a place they can call home in this rare disease.